This episode is supported by FX's Grotesquerie, a new series from executive producer Ryan Murphy. Heinous crimes unsettle a small community, and the local detective feels these atrocities are eerily personal, as if someone or something is taunting her. Starring Niecy Nash-Betts, Courtney B. Vance, Leslie Manville, and Travis Kelce. FX's Grotesquerie premieres September 25th on FX. Stream on Hulu.
This is your girl Yannick Taylor, aka Priestess, hostess of Conversations with the Priestess. Here's a preview of what you may hear on Conversations with the Priestess.
We weren't meant for monogamy, let's be honest. Like, we have needs, let's be real. And communicating that, what you want, what you don't want, what sets up. Now this drink is brown, because I learned something. Since I'm older, I can't do brown liquor anymore. Also, I noticed since I started on hormone replacement there, HRT, in 2015, me and certain liquors don't match well. I don't know whether...
And I recognize that a lot of men love to be dominated by women. And that's because men are seen as these leaders, as this big alpha male dominant being. And because they're put on this pedestal of being leaders, sometimes they want to be submissive.
Back when I cosplayed a Butch Queen in South Carolina around 2011, I was on Craigslist. This is when Craigslist was bumping and before they had gotten rid of the personal section.
I hope you enjoyed that preview. Join me on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. for Priestess After Dark. Full video versions of the podcast can be found on patreon.com/CWT Priestess, and join me on Fridays at noon for our regular Friday post. Live, love, and be free. Smooches.
Available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, anywhere you download and stream podcasts.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of All Too Real 2. My name is Michael E. Cullen II, and with me, as always, is...
Sesame, Guitar String, and Carta. I couldn't think of a name, so I just...
Oh, okay. So that's your name for today?
For today, yes.
Okay. Which guitar string are you?
The new one, not the new one. I got one of my guitars fixed, and the guys at the store put on new strings as well because it was like missing like 4 strings. I haven't played in a while, so
yeah, makes sense. You know when I played my guitar last?
I don't think you have a guitar.
Exactly. Yeah, but you know what? I could be the greatest guitar player ever.
Could be, yes.
But I've never played guitar, so you don't know. I could be like the next Jimi Hendrix. Or Eddie Van Halen or something, you know?
It's in the realm of all potential possibility. You just don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I could be the next Leonardo or Michelangelo in regards to art.
Right.
Or I could become a turtle.
I mean, yeah, I guess you could.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of which, today on the show, we are going to be covering the 1993 film Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 with our friends from Movie Smash, which is a great podcast that you all should check out. We had Chris and Jeremy from that show. A couple of really cool dudes. They're going to be talking about the movie with us. They basically their show. They talk about all of the comic book movies that are not part of the MCU. So. I've been on their show once. We covered the movie Ghost World, so make sure you check out that episode. I was on there as a guest. It was pretty fun. And they were pretty fun here on our show. So here's the episode that we did with them. Okay, so we got a couple guests here from the podcast Movie Smash. If you guys would like to introduce yourselves and tell me a little bit about yourselves to start off, that'd be great.
Well, I was going to let Chris go first since it's his podcast, but that's okay. I'm one of the hosts of Movie Smash, not the main host. That would be Chris, who will be introducing himself in a minute. I'm also the host of the Retrovaniacs Retro Gaming Pod.
Awesome.
Yep. And I'm Chris Roberts, as Jeremy just said, one of the hosts of Movie Smash, where we discuss a variety of movies. That's why we're here today, of course. And I'm also the founder of Off Panel Creations, which is a combination of a nerdy furniture company and a production company, all rolled into one.
Nice. Yeah, I've seen some of your furniture and it looks awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, if I could afford it, I'd probably buy some, but I might in the future.
Once this podcast does amazing things, you'll be able to afford it.
Oh yeah. When we, take over and become the number one podcast and kick Joe Rogan to the curb or whatever, we'll be great. Yeah.
1.3 million subscribers is right around the corner.
Yes. Every day we're getting that much closer, just that much. So, today on the show, we are talking about the 1993 film Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, the third part of the Turtles trilogy, I guess. First, I would just like to ask, each of you, we can start with you, Chris, maybe, and see what your initial reaction is to the movie, your background with it and stuff. Like if you saw it when you were younger and
I think I was out of the turtle mode by the time this thing came out. I was well past that age. I think my first experience was actually I bought the box set for one of my kids years ago and didn't even realize the third one had come out at that point. And I'm glad I didn't, because it would have ruined the first two for me.
And what'd you think of this on this viewing?
Oh, it's a good way to, I was trying to figure out a good way to sort of describe this movie. And it really felt like it was made for TV. The animatronics were as good as the previous ones, and there's reasons behind that. And the lighting around it too is just so bright compared to the previous movies as well.
Yeah.
It just felt like someone had taken the IP and said, let's make a straight to TV movie for this.
And how about you, Jeremy?
I definitely didn't see this when it was new. Much like Chris, we're at the same age. So much like Chris, I was out of the Turtles realm by now. I saw the first two in the theater, and I remember basically based on the second one, I figured there were some diminishing returns on this third one. So I didn't rush out to see it. So I haven't actually, I thought I had seen, but watching it for this podcast, I don't think I've ever watched this in full until now. And I don't think I was missing much up until this point. It's definitely the Turtles movies, and I think Chris is right. It doesn't necessarily even feel made for television. It feels made strictly for children.
Yeah, it's very cartoony. What did you think of this, and what's your history here, Sesame?
Oh man, well, I was part of the first test market for the Turtles, and so I was really into them. I think I saw all of them in the theaters when they came out. Saw this one in the theaters when they came out, and I was just thoroughly disappointed because there's no characters. So the actual comic, or not comics, but the cartoons or whatever. We go to medieval Japan, or okay, what does this have to do with anything? And then nothing happened though. That's the other thing. It's this movie is so slow going because literally nothing happens in it, and it was just I don't like it.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't remember seeing this when it came out originally. I think I may have seen it on TV once, or when I decided that I was going to be a turtle completionist, and I saw it years ago or something, and and I don't remember enjoying it. And then I didn't remember any of it until when I watched it again last night, and it was definitely, as you guys say, it feels like a made for TV movie, they had a live action TV series that came out after this. It's maybe 1 centimeter of a step above that, and that's it, as far as quality goes, because that was horrible. So I've only watched one episode of that, and I couldn't make it through it. So
it definitely felt closer to the cartoons than it did the actual original movies.
Yeah,
the way it was so cartoony, and there was it felt like a filler episode from the TV show. That makes sense.
Yeah, where you have just random characters you're never going to see again.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a Shredder or Krang or whatever episode. The thing is, I'm not I like the Turtles. I'm not a huge Turtles fan. I mean, I'm wearing a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles t-shirt right now just because I happen to have it. But I was never a diehard Turtles guy. But I did see the original movie when it came out in theaters, and then I watched Secret of the Ooze a bunch because I happened to buy it for $1 on VHS when I was a kid, somewhere at a garage sale or something, and didn't have many movies to watch, so I watched that one a lot when I was by a kid, I mean a teenager. So, but it's interesting story. I mean, it doesn't really do anything, as Sesame was saying. It's just kind of there. So what was there any redeeming quality that any of you guys found?
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I can't think of anything redeeming about it, because and I always like to try to find the good parts of movies. I'm always I love practical effects. I love the hard work that goes into these things. Even a bad movie has some redeeming factor to it. because someone worked hard at this, and this really felt like they sort of just put it together and knocked it out over a weekend.
Yeah, my only like feeling of anything good is I thought for some odd reason that there was kind of depth to Michelangelo's performance by voice of Robbie Rist. He's like one of the only constants throughout these three movies. So as far as and Robbie Rist, who was Cousin Oliver on the Brady Bunch, is the voice of Michelangelo. So yeah, and I thought there was a little bit of depth to his performance. Corey Feldman was way over the top with his Donatello, but yeah, as normal. But
I was gonna say for Corey Feldman, he's not over the top. For anyone else, he'd be over the top. But for Corey Feldman,
I'm just saying normal. Yeah.
Mine is Donatello. Also, Donatello doesn't have a huge, other than being the reason they understand time travel somehow. He doesn't really serve a role in this movie. You know, Michelangelo actually has kind of a part that drives it forward. Even Raphael has that awkward bonding with a child for no reason section that happens. Like everyone else seems to have a piece, except for really Donatello, and Leonardo's just there. So I guess it's the redeeming features of this for me is that one, it's faster than I remember it being. Like when I thought I saw this, I remember this being really slow, and it does not a lot happens, but it didn't drag. Like I watched it in one sitting. I didn't have to pause it and come back or anything. I watched the whole thing in one sitting. Also, the masks, like the entire turtle costumes, while not incredible, I thought they were terrible, but I have blended that together in my mind with, you mentioned the television show. There was that live action show that was like a musical thing. And then there was also a Christmas special that came out in 1994 that is absolutely terrible. I Wish You a Turtle Christmas. That is an incredible special to review for a podcast like this. But it is
we already did an episode about that one.
The costumes are one step above that. At least their faces move, and at no point do you see just regular tennis shoes under the costume, which you did in the Christmas. They're better than I remember, except that around their bandanas, like you could see holes underneath the bandanas. I guess that might be where the actual eye holes are. I don't know, but depending on where they were filmed at, it was very noticeable, especially Michelangelo. Maybe just the color difference, but it was like, ooh, every time I see him, I can just focus on those eye holes. There are a
couple side shots I noticed where actually the neckline connected to the actual shell was just a sleeve where they just pulls it down. And then from that point on, you can see that they try getting angles where you couldn't notice it so much, but there were a couple side shots where it's clearly he has a mask. He's just wearing a mask.
Yeah, there's a reason for all of this, as you've mentioned before. It's like, okay, the first two movies were done by the Jim Henson's Creature Shop, which, is Jim Henson quality, and this film, unfortunately, they couldn't afford them. So they went with this other company, which has the great name of All Effects Company.
Yep.
All Effects Company. Yeah. So
sounds legit.
Wait. It's the acme of the effects world.
Yeah.
You know what you're getting.
Yeah. You're getting all of them.
You're getting all of them.
I don't know which ones I want. Where can I go? Boom. All of them.
Well, I swear the Splinter puppet was definitely on sale that day because you could definitely tell a difference in quality seeing him in the staring out of the window at all times just to hide the rest of his body.
Yeah, he never moves. Like in the other movies, I think he moves a little bit. I haven't seen those in a while either, so I don't remember. But yeah, it's like he's stuck behind a window or to a chair or different things. It's like
a few months ago, we reviewed the first TMNT movie, and they're miles apart in quality.
Yeah, there's a different actor playing Splinter as well, doing the voice. In this one, it is James Murray is the actor's name. In the first two, it was the original Elmo, or the most famous Elmo actor. What's his name? The guy that got in trouble for some supposed grooming. Yeah, he was Splinter in those. So it's just kind of funny to his voice range. He was really good. It's like you go from Elmo to Splinter. They're totally different voices. So yeah, but it's kind of a downgrade. No offense to James Murray. He was probably doing the best he could, but it's just
not the same.
No. And I was surprised when I looked up. Corey Feldman only got $1,500 to do this movie and to do the first Turtles movie. So
they overpaid.
Yeah. But I just find that really odd that it's only $1,500, with for any kind of acting. It just doesn't seem like it's, especially for a feature-length film, it just doesn't seem like it's fair. But yeah, they messed with him. He tried to negotiate for more, but they said because of his drug issues, they couldn't pay him more or something. And that's why he wasn't in the second one, because he was in rehab or something at the time. And they were also afraid that it was going to look bad for a kid's movie to have a drug addict in the movie. So
by the third one, they just didn't care. They're like, no one's even going to pay attention to who the voices are. And figure they probably could have done it for free if they would have said, we'll use some of your music. but they didn't.
Yeah.
Something far better than a Corey Feldman.
I'm still regretting he was in the area like a couple years ago, like performing at a local club, and I almost went. I was going to go just to, for the hell of it.
Yeah. Speaking of the music was drastically different than the previous movies. I mean, the quality just fell off a cliff.
I mean, there wasn't even a theme song. Like the first two have kind of like a theme song in them, and this doesn't even have that. It kind of just goes right into action. So yeah. Any other thoughts here, Sesame, that you have off the top?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. What do you mean? Like, what about the cool dance scene when they introduce themselves? They do this weird little routine. You don't count that
at the very beginning. Yeah, I guess so.
And at the very, you forgot the end, the beginning, and the end. It's like a alpha and omega type situation. It just kind of, it's like a circle. You get that stuck in your mind. No, you don't actually. No, there was one point, and I forgot what it was, but you talked about redeeming qualities, right? So there is like about a 10 to 15 second shot where the guys are dancing to Tarzan Boy by Baltimore at the bar, and then I thought that was cool. That the whole movie could have just been that on a loop, as Casey's trying to give him a taste of the good life in New York City circa 1993 or whatever. So that was kind of cool. And that was it, though. Everything else was bad, but that was kind of neat. Yeah. Also, when a guy dies at the end, the bad guy, whatever his name was, the dude with the guns, there's a scene where he gets thrown off the ledge or whatever. His body disappears a split second before he hits the water. So I thought that was pretty neat. It was unintentional, of course, but that was kind of cool.
No, that effect is straight out of a Sega CD game. That's terrible. It is.
Yeah, it's like he just disappears. And his name was Walker, and every time they said his name, I just followed it with Texas Ranger every time I saw it.
Yeah, that would have been better if Chuck Norris played him.
Yeah, and I mean, Elias Koteas as Casey Jones, and then I don't understand why they had him play another character. Maybe probably just to have it, and if there was no explanation why they looked the same or anything.
So I that was one of the notes I took, was like, what's the point of this fake Casey Jones? Why is he here? And the only thing I can think of is that he needed for the plot to move forward, right? Because ultimately he's a mole that's been sent in to steal this scepter thing. Someone needs to trust him. So I guess having him look like Casey Jones means that April O'Neil would trust him, as she doesn't know anyone else in the past, right? She wouldn't know anybody. She sees a guy that at least looks familiar. Yeah. Even though she knows it's not him, she's naturally drawn to him. Like, that's giving this movie a lot of credit, but it's still the only reason I can think he had to be there. Because otherwise, I thought there was a whole section where he gets accidentally sent to the future, or Casey Jones gets stuck in the past, and like, no, I don't want to go back. I want to be Casey Jones in the past and kick ass all the time. And then this new guy's the new Casey Jones. But no, none of that happened. I think it was just that she would trust him enough where he could serve his one role in the movie.
I think he's contractually obligated to have so many speaking lines. That's just what it was.
Yeah, that's what I'm guessing, probably. And it's just, and they realized when they wrote the screenplay that, oh wait, not much actually takes place in the present, so we're going to have him in the movie somewhere, because we got to pay Elias Koteas like his money and make it worth it. We'll just use him because he was kind of popular. I mean, and the problem with the Casey Jones character too, I mean, he was missing from the second movie, but the first movie, because they had a lot of issues with the fact that the people thought it was too violent, and so they that's why they took Casey Jones out of the second one, because they didn't want like an all killing, I mean,
hockey stick,
all violent guy. But it's like he's just a babysitter in this movie. Like, he doesn't do any Casey Jones stuff. It's just like he's just playing a himbo, like just kind of hanging out, being kind of like a, I don't know, like a second class Bill and Ted or something. It's just weird.
You didn't know Casey Jones, the character. You would just think they hired their friend that likes hockey to watch these four guys. They don't. I mean, you know who Casey Jones is. If you're watching this movie, you know. But he's like the most boring milquetoast version of Casey Jones you can imagine. He's just like, I like hockey, and then he takes them out for a night on the town. Like, that's his only purpose. He doesn't do anything else. Like, it would have been more interesting if they would have sent him back to have all those fights with the sword. Yeah, that would have made sense. But instead, it's like, no, we're not going to send the three of them back and have Donatello take these guys out for a night in the town. That would have made some sense. But I don't know. It's
like they wanted to keep the four turtles together, so they had to send them all back. But I mean, there was a significant portion of the movie where Mikey was missing, so it's like, I don't understand,
Right. Well, I think it's also, as you said, they had to bring all four turtles to the past, but they had the rules around their time travel were just a little wonky. The whole must weigh the same amount. Yes, and I want to ask Jeremy, if you don't mind, because Jeremy loves time travel movies.
No,
at least if you listen from our show, you've heard him talk about this several times. But Jeremy, how do you feel about the rules around this time travel?
Yeah, we talked about it for Time Cop with an extensive. I don't like time travel because unless you're only going into the future, it doesn't make any sense. If people can go back in time or whatever, then you'd always see all these time travelers, all this other stuff, right? At some point, doesn't matter how far in the future it is, you'll see them now. So you can only go in the future with time travel. But besides the point, it doesn't actually exist. But let's just say it did. Their rules for time travel don't make any sense. First off, it's mass displacement based. So you have to transport with somebody else who's holding the scepter that's the exact same size or weight that you are. They didn't really, it's mass. So make it whatever you want it to be. So it has that number of people that are holding the scepter. So if it's 6 people holding the scepter, that have to be 6 people holding the scepter at the other time. I don't know what powers it, because otherwise people would constantly just vanish as soon as they touch the scepter and be replaced with something else. So there has to be something that powers it. Like in the future, they seem to have some kind of understanding. Like, oh, if we, I don't know, like put an electric light on it or something, like it there's something you do more to hold it. But in the past, they just wish and it turns on and it works just fine. Clothes don't transport with, but that's a very vague description, because if you have bandanas, they transfer just fine. Weapons, no problem at all. A watch, a Walkman, all those things will tell. But shoot,
your underclothes too. You know, like
yeah. And then even when they do teleport, the other guys come back with just underclothes only and nothing else. I mean, again, this is a kids movie. This is probably the least concerning aspect of the movie. But I still I don't like time travel to begin with. So this whole time I was like, none of these rules are consistent. It's terrible.
I love time travel movies, but I always have the same issue with them that you're having here, where I just don't understand the concept about a lot of it. I mean, it's like, and the thing is, it's like the weight displacement type thing makes no sense, because even though the one dude, whatever his name is, what's the first guy that comes back?
The son of the Shogun or whatever?
Yeah,
not Yoshi, but Kenji.
Kenji, yeah, he's got to have like muscle and stuff for being his, the way he is. There's no way that he and April O'Neil weigh the same.
No.
Right. And there's also no way that those other 4 guys weigh the same as the turtles with their big, heavy shells on them and stuff. I don't think that they weigh the same. So the weight displacement thing just goes out the window right away.
Yeah.
I mean, just why did they even mention that? Like, they should have just said, oh, it's, person for person sort of thing.
Well, they alluded to like a potential future plot, because they said that these turtles have come in the past before.
Yeah.
So were they planting seeds for a 4th Turtles in Time movie?
Probably.
Maybe. I know they were trying to do a next mutation thing where they're going to have another turtle added and stuff, but they did that on the TV series instead. So, yeah.
Well, which would have been way better. Seeing the costumes, have they degraded from the first movie to the third movie? I know it's not the same costumes, but just the quality of costume they're using, and including pushing into the television zone. It's a good thing they didn't. They didn't add any other turtles, That's what I didn't like the most about this movie. I mean, more than the fact that the time travel part bothered me. I can get past that. The fact that the first movie was cool because it was turtles. You're like, oh, this is going to be cool.
Yeah.
Right. It was seen as very dark at the time. I remember when I walked out as a kid, I was like, that's not what I expected. I still liked it a lot, but it seemed like it's way darker than the cartoon, because I was not familiar with the comic when I watched the cartoon. I knew it existed, but I hadn't read it, not the real comic. Then by the time the second one came out, they didn't have, Bebop and Rocksteady in the first movie, but they did have Taka and Razar in the second movie, which was cool.
Yeah.
Sure. It's not, watching it now, it doesn't hold up as well as the first one does, but it still was like, okay, cool, more mutants. Then they go back to this one, no mutants. Just the original Turtles and Shredder, or Splinter, who's just sitting behind a wall. But there's no one else. There's not even like weird monsters from the past they could have put in there. Nope. Instead, it's a fairly realistic portrayal, I guess, of bad. And like, okay, sure, all right. Just
and there's no Vanilla Ice.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
They try to have that with the dance scenes that were mentioned earlier. They do try to make up for that, but I'd much prefer Vanilla Ice.
And that their jokes make no sense. Like Sesame right now on our StreamYard thing that we have here has his middle name as the Addams Family.
Oh God, yeah, I hate these little quips.
Because they're like at one point when they say them, who'd you expect? The Addams Family? Like,
doesn't make any sense. What
doesn't make any sense at all? I mean, maybe that was the Addams Family out around then, the Raul Julia movie.
Yeah, a couple years earlier.
Yeah, so maybe that's why, but it makes no sense, and a lot of the jokes just make no sense. Like, I'm a turtle and I've fallen and I can't get up or something like that.
It's like one of these catchphrases from commercials, and they just threw it in a movie that they thought would like, oh, people have seen that commercial, right? So we'll just replace the word turtle, and like, or the whole thing when they do swing, like
I wrote down swing
world. God. Oh my God, it bothered me so much.
Yeah, I wrote the same thing. Now, the humor in this is very, very dated, and it's not because like it's just the jokes don't hold up. It's more about the references. There's tons of references. They're all around the year this movie came out.
And, well,
go ahead.
I think it's supposed to feel more like the cartoon, which is very much this kind of, not this focused on references, but very much just little quips and action. Instead, this is like just laying it on thick, and it is all current movie references, or some are not even current. I think at one point he says, "Who's that? Wayne Newton?" They're like, even back then, that was an old reference.
It's like, and what like 10-year-old kid watching this movie knows who Wayne Newton is? I mean,
There's probably some random 10-year-old who has a Wayne Newton poster on his bedroom wall, but that's just that weird kid you don't talk to. But
I didn't get the chance to look it up. I'm curious who wrote the script for this movie.
It is, got it right here. It was written by Stuart Wilson, who directed it.
That makes total sense. No one else want to be involved with this. Who's like, I got a script. I've got it handled. We're going to film this.
Yeah, and he
works for All Productions Media.
All Productions. He's done all of them. Every single one.
Writes it, directs it.
Yeah.
He does the music.
He's done all of them. Everything from Oppenheimer to, I don't know, Tooth Fairy 2. But he's got let me see here, his writing credits. He's written for like he wrote for a bunch of TV shows and then and then a random, bunch of random movies I've never heard of. Some of them, he was a writer on the Donnie and Marie series, Three's Company, Sonny and Cher show, the Osmond Family Show, Mork and Mindy.
So this was his big break.
Yeah.
I bet he used those same jokes. The ones that weren't clearly 90s references were all just, he's like, I pulled these from Mork and Mindy episodes. These are great.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, he has a lot of credits, but not like anything that you'd be like, oh, wow, that was awesome that he did that. No. It's kind of the other thing too, like when we were talking about Wayne's World though too, I just remembered the other day, I know this is totally off topic, but Elon Musk interviewed Donald Trump, and at one point Donald Trump says, I said way. They said way, and I said no way. Like they were doing the whole like way, no way thing, and like Donald Trump doing a like Wayne's World reference in 2024 is just really weird. But
obviously Wayne World's in the zeitgeist, and they need to make another movie.
Yeah, I think so.
Totally.
I'd like to see that or another Austin Powers or something. Yeah,
old man Wayne.
Yeah,
they could go.
That would be funny.
To feudal Japan. That'd be a fun.
Oh yeah, time travel, and then they go back in the past, and there's just some random Tia Carrere looking person back then, and yeah, we're good. Rob Lowe or something. That'd be good. Like if you here's a question I'm going to ask: if you could like create your ideal sequel to the first Turtles movie or the second one, what would it be? You can involve time travel or not.
I'd say I would definitely want it darker. I mean, when we talked about the first Turtles movie, like it threw me off too when I was a kid by it being so dark. But now, me having aged several decades since then, it would. I think I would love to see it darker again, be more true to the material as well. But I mean, it would be kind of funny to see him throw a Krang in there. But it wasn't really sort of part of that universe. So it'd be sort of more down to earth, more. See, I'm not a big turtle guy. I don't know all the enemies for it, but like I said, tonally wise, I wanted to go back to being dark again, because the thing of it being dark, and this back to the practical effects, it hides all those problems that a fully animatronic costume has, right? In the first movie, those turtles looked real, at least when I was a kid.
Yeah.
These turtles, my kids watched it with me. It was painfully obvious these things were real.
Yeah.
My 10-year-old walked in the room when I was watching it and promptly walked right out. So it didn't even hold. And it wasn't a scene without turtles where he's just like, Dad's watching some old movie with about horsemen. No, full on turtle scene. He was just like, what are you watching? And left to go play Switch. Good call on his part, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess if you're asking what I
now he's questioning you and your existence. And I'm joking.
That's not a new thing. Trust me. Every movie I watch, like, Dad's watching whatever again. Between doing movies for this podcast plus playing some of the video games I'm covering, Retro Maniacs, which are all the way back to the Atari, they're just like, Dad watches the oldest crap. I'm like, well, if I had to make a movie now based on the Turtles, I don't know if you are following the current The Last Ronin, which is kind of
that's a good series.
Sequel to the original.
That's supposed to come out.
It is. I don't know if they're still doing more with it. I was going to be a video game. It was going to be a series. I don't know what's still happening, but the books themselves are very good, and they're on the new round. Like a new set of books in the middle of. I would love to see that. So if you're asking what I'd do now, that's what I'd want. Something way in the future that takes these characters, whatever happens to them or whatnot, and kind of goes forward like that. At the time, though, I would have much rather had something that was more akin to the second movie, maybe darker. I would have more on Baxter Stockman becoming a fly person, which was a big thing in the comics or in the cartoons, which I would love to see done more, work more with Baxter Stockman, all these robots. You could even throw in trying to have Bebop and Rocksteady. Like, that's what I would have wanted at that age. Now I wouldn't want that, though. Now I would think I would want something a little darker, and Last Ronin's way dark. So.
They earlier this year, they actually announced that they're developing a live-action film adaptation of Last Ronin.
That could be really good. I mean, I finished reading both.
And they want it to be like dark and like maybe R-rated, at least PG-13, probably, yeah.
If they're going to do it true to form, like true to the actual books, it's going to have to be R. It's very, I mean, it's not incredibly graphic, but it's also not jokey like this.
Because I'm barely reading a Screen Rant article from April about it. So they talked about it a few months ago. So I thought that would be cool. I'd like to see really a dark one. I mean, if and I think this movie could have been better if you had better practical effects, maybe a better idea for the time travel, and like you said, like it's like the whole, it could have been made better, like if you added in some different characters, maybe, because like it's like all the characters they added were boring.
Yeah
That's the problem. Like there was nothing exciting. There wasn't like a mustache twirling villain that was like making you think. It's like this Walker guy wasn't really scary to me. So
he didn't do any other than he brought guns, right? So it's like, oh, guns, which again, if you lived there, that would be terrifying. But the Turtles, I mean, yes, guns are terrifying now. But for the Turtles, it's not like, what are guns? Like, they know what guns are. And these guns are not what they'd be used to seeing in New York City, which is where they live. So it's like, comparatively for the Turtles, it's not so bad. Yes, he has one cannon. That's great. But they could have gone, even with, if you don't change the fact that most of these characters are dull, the whole crux of them time traveling is this scepter that, for whatever reason, is like an heirloom to the emperor and his family, or whoever there's the feudal lord that's down there.
Yeah.
But they don't really say what it does. He doesn't know what it does. He doesn't know that it does time travel. He has no clue about it. It seems to just be their good luck charm. Like, they could have made that itself have a much bigger role. Like, not just does it do time travel, but it can summon a lightning dragon or something that, I know they wouldn't have money for some of that, but even if it was a terrible looking, like, I don't know, it could have been anything. Could have been any kind of other monster. They already talked about calling them Kappa, thinking they were like demons.
Yeah.
And they could have easily rolled more into that, but they didn't do any of that. They just
maybe actually have some demons in there or something. Yeah. And like the other thing too with it, it's like they could have done more with the scepter, and maybe even explain how April O'Neil actually ended up with it. Like,
she found it in a yard sale or something. Yeah,
she got a yard sale.
Yeah, because that happens all the time. I mean, I have seen things where I've read articles where somebody buys a painting at a garage sale and it turns out to be like a missing masterpiece from some famous artist or something.
Yeah.
But still, it's kind of like, I don't think you're going to find a Japanese scepter at your friend's garage sale. So,
well, it looks like an old street lamp. Like, it's not going to look like a really cool, you think of stuff where you normally think of like a staff with like a thing on it. Maybe I just too much.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
that's what I think of. Instead, it's like, oh, it looks like an old street lamp. So I bought it at a yard sale. Like, what would you buy that for? What
had a little spinny hourglass inside of it.
Only when it was working. Otherwise, it just sat there.
The gifts she got, the guys didn't really. I mean, the only one that was actually even excited was Donatello about his little radio thing. So it's like,
all of those are better gifts than what they give Splinter for Christmas. So it works out.
Yeah. So
on the time travel case, I want to mention about the time travel thing, because that was really bothering me. So they go back in time and they see the scroll, right? And it shows them like fighting some people, but then yet they're like afraid of being killed. But it's like, well, you're not going to get killed because this whole thing already happened, which means you're going to have to go back into the future. So it's like there is like no stakes. That's the other thing. There's like no stakes to this movie, where it's like, they're going to go back to where they came from. And so, yeah, it's just the whole thing. And but like, yeah, too, like the Baxter Stockman thing, that would have been kind of cool for a movie. I mean, back then,
like, yeah, I mean, they did do it with one of the Michael Bay produced movies. They had Baxter in there. So yeah.
But those are cartoons, right? I mean, not that that's good or bad. I like cartoon movies, but
no, they had those like live action hybrids. They had it was like CGI turtles. I watched them. They're okay. They're not horrible. Like the second one, they introduced Casey Jones, played by Stephen Amell from Arrow, from the CW's Arrow and stuff. And he was actually kind of a cool Casey Jones, but it was still, you had Megan Fox as April. Yeah. They were okay. They were just
this movie kind of reminded me of, what was the Tom Cruise movie, The Last Samurai?
Yeah.
So it's like Last Samurai plus time travel, but it needed to be more like what was the Keanu Reeves one? 47 Ronin?
Yeah, that could have been cool. I mean, like, yeah, you just put it down. Like I was trying to remember. I was like, I saw a movie that this reminds me of, and it was totally Last Samurai.
Yeah.
Saw that on a date years ago. So yeah.
That's better than seeing this on a date. That would be a last date.
Yeah, definitely. This was actually a date where the girl's like, you got to see this. I love this movie. It's one of my favorites. And we watched Last Samurai. But if it would have been like, oh, you got to see this, it's one of my favorite movies. It pops in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. And I'm just like, yeah, I got to go to the bus.
I had a mutual friend though who was obsessed with this movie. Like sometimes like he would come hang out like with my actual friend, which is fine. Every single time he came out, he would find a VHS tape and would just like beg for me to put on the VHS. I'm like, are you sure you actually want to watch this? He's like, yeah. It was like every single time he came over, I'm like, oh my God, dude. Like, I can't take this anymore.
How old were you guys when this happened?
30?
This wasn't like this week or something, were you?
We're like, it's like 26.
Still too old. It's way too old.
Yeah. He was like 2 years younger than me, so he's like 24. But yeah, still, I'm like, come on, man.
Still too old.
Yeah.
If you're in double digits, it's too old. Like that's really.
Yeah.
If you're 9, I can let you pass at 9. Even then, I'm like,
yeah.
Especially when the existence of the first movie and the second one, to a lesser extent, is out there. You choose the third. Like,
yeah. Well, that's what I kept doing. I'm like, I have part 2. Do you sure? Do you want to watch part 2? And it's like, no, part 3. I'm like, oh my God.
It feels a lot like sort of like the Batman or the 89 Batman series, where it starts off very, very dark. And then all of a sudden, by the third movie, they make a left-hand turn and make it a little more funny, a little more comical.
Yeah.
It's almost a parody of itself.
I love the audio commentary on the fourth one. The director.
For the fourth Batman movie. I was like, there's a fourth Turtles one?
Yeah, the fourth Batman movie. The Batman.
I'm sorry.
Batman, the whole audio commentary. He's just like, as you're watching, you're just like, yeah, I'm really sorry.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, this movie was made to sell toys. Because they literally made the toys before they wrote the script.
Well, that's not surprising at all. Like that.
No,
that's the only thing about this movie. Like, yeah, that makes sense. I would have done that too.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like interesting when people actually admit to the fact that they effed up. But Joel Schumacher, that's who directed that. Yeah, he directed the. Yeah, I was trying to remember the guy that supposedly had sex with like 200 people in his lifetime or something.
All during the taping of that movie.
Yes. That's why the directing was horrible. He was just off having sex with people the whole time. It's like, where's Joel? Oh, he's in his trailer.
It was rocking. Film without him. We'll figure it out later.
Yeah,
just film it.
We'll still give him credit. Yeah. Any other thoughts you guys have about this before we wrap things up?
I was wondering why, I mentioned earlier, Leonardo doesn't do much. He does. He shows that he's a master of CPR on human beings. Why would he know that? Why would he know that at all? That's, again, of all the things in the movie, sure, I guess that makes it. But the fact that they're like, oh, he's casting a spell on him. It's like, so.
I'm just trying to figure out the like turtle mouth to human mouth thing with CPR. How does that work?
Well, and in real life, you don't want to put a turtle's mouth in your mouth, or you're going to get salmonella. It's guaranteed. So,
yes.
Maybe he started breathing again, but he's not going to last much longer.
Yeah. Personal experience.
I'll make out with turtles here and there. It's happened.
Yeah, don't we all? I did the frog thing. I just kept hoping that they'd turn into like a princess or somebody, important, because I watched a stupid cartoon, and then now it never happened.
During biology class, when you're
turned on by frogs.
Yeah. Just like, sitting there in the biology classroom making out with a dissected frog, and my lab partner's looking at me like, what are you doing? I was like, well, I was hoping I could create a cute girl that's cuter than you. Oh, wait, no, I'm just kidding. Any other thoughts, anybody?
I think it's while watching it, like I said, I like thinking about the production. I like thinking about sort of what it took to make this happen. And a lot of the shots just felt like it was made in like someone's backyard or someone's spot in their house. Because there weren't too many places, but everyone, if you notice, like when they came into the fort, there's a fence surrounding it, so you can't see beyond the fence. They sort of come around the corner, and it's obvious they were all behind the fence waiting for the director to say, and go, right?
Yeah, it's like, I know they didn't film this like overseas anywhere. I'm pretty sure this was filmed like
someone's dojo up the street.
Yeah. And it's just, and a lot of the action scenes, they do the thing where you cut into close-up things all the time, and there's no like fluid through line of what was happening with the action. Like, and then you have the swords hitting each other, but it's like you're playing with your brother or sister with like a Nerf bat or something. That's all it was. It was not like actual sword fighting.
I do want to give some props to there was some early shots of when the turtles were flipping around and fighting, and jumping. They were actually moving in those costumes, so that's pretty impressive. They actually had some mobility in there, but beyond that, it was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, they did have a lot of good people inside those suits. The martial arts, a lot of them were like stunt people and martial artists that are in those suits. But it's just, I don't know. Anything else there, Sesame?
There is one part that I think was the greatest part of the movie, and by that I mean the worst part of the movie. Is when when April, she's like in the cage or whatever, and she, for some reason thinks this guy is like an ancestor of Casey. But then she sees a rat and she goes, "Oh, you look familiar too." And then it goes to Splinter. So we're supposed to imply that this is like an ancestor to Splinter. Like, what does it even mean? Like, like, I don't get it.
There were some interesting transitions, I will say, that they transitioned from that rat to Splinter. There was another scene where they transitioned from April in the cage kind of swinging to the bird cage that Walker had randomly. He was like more obsessed with this bird for some reason that they didn't even really go into or why. He was obsessed with this bird in a cage.
Yeah, there was a weird thing about that one. They kept telling the first mate to shut up about it.
Yeah,
obviously he has seen some things.
Yeah, there's one of the main guys that was like part of his crew was played by John Aylward, who played he was on ER for years as one of the doctors. He's kind of the little heavier set guy that was like one of the British guys. And it kept bugging me. I was like, I know him from somewhere, and I did like an ER like binge one time, and I'm like, oh, it's ER. But yeah, because he doesn't have an English accent normally, but he did here. So. But yeah, like I said, and I do find it kind of either too much or not enough that they paid $1,500 to Corey Feldman, and I'm assuming the other voice actors only got that too. So it's like just kind of sad. I mean, I'm Facebook friends with Robbie Rist, and if you happen to be listening to this, Robbie, reach out to me and let me know how much you got paid to do the voice of Michelangelo. I think that's about it here, guys. Where can people find you guys? Like, where do you want to be found on the internet?
Sure. You can always find me over at Movie Smash. We post a new episode every 2 weeks, review movies just like this. And you can always find me over at Off Panel Creations, where I'm building some piece of nerdy furniture.
And to find Movie Smash, the best way there is to go to movie-smash.com. You can also find Retrovaniacs, which is my retro gaming podcast I do with some other friends, at retrovania.net, which is also links to everything Retrovania.
Awesome. I'll be sure to put those links in the show notes here too. And I just want to thank you guys for joining us, and feel free to come back anytime you find another feeling to, review a sequel to a bad comic book movie or something. All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, that was our review of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, the greatest of the turtle movies.
Oh,
the best. Yes. In regards to turtle tier movies, it's at the top tier of turtle films. I was trying to think of something that had a T in it, but it didn't work to keep the alliteration going.
That's fine. It's just slightly better than the Turtles Christmas special from like 94 or whatever,
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
A little bit better.
I mean, that is amazing, the possibility of seeing a human penis while you're watching a...
That's right, I forgot about that.
Yeah, when you're not looking for one. If you want to look for one and you're an adult, go ahead all you want, and I don't care. But if you're watching a kid's Christmas special and all of a sudden you see what may or may not be the guy's junk, it's really not good. Anyway, speaking of junk, in this movie, there was a lot of junk that April O'Neil bought, so that was cool. Hope you enjoyed that review there. Any final thoughts here, Sesame, before we wrap things up?
Just to say thank you to the two fine gentlemen or gents, as the kids say these days. I don't think they do say it.
Oh, I think that's catching on. It's on the TikToks and the whatnot.
It is.
Yeah, no.
and the tiki-takis and the Instagromies. I don't know.
It's right up there. It's right up there with all the kids saying "Yes, Queen," stuff like that.
Yeah. It's been going on for like over 10 years. Like, come on, it's time to move. No, seriously, I was watching a movie or a show the other day, and they were saying that it's like from 2014. I'm like, okay, it's time to move on. It's fine. No cap, skippity toilet. I don't know what these things mean, but I've heard them, so I don't know.
They all sound like something you need to take a vaccine for to me, but I don't know. But yeah. So, anyways, I'd like to thank Jeremy and Chris for joining us, and be sure to check out their podcast. Also, check out Retrovania as well. It's a pretty cool retro game podcast too that Jeremy does. So check that out as well. There'll be links in our show notes for all of this stuff, so be sure to check that out. Also, check out our show notes and go to all2real2.com, and you can find all the links to everything that we have, like our Patreon, our TeePublic, all of our social media.
You can find it all there, all of our episodes. You can listen to us wherever you are listening to us now, and listen to all of our older episodes and our upcoming episodes. If you are able to time travel like the Turtles, you may be able to listen to our future episodes before we make them.
Right.
And if you do, let us know how they turned out. Yeah. Anyways, till next time, folks, just remember that I love you. Chris and Jeremy probably love you. Sesame definitely loves you. And until next time, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to All Too Real 2 podcast, a Cullen Park production. Produced and edited by Michael E. Cullen II. Music by Matthew Haas. Subscribe and share the show. Visit us at cullenpark.com.
The great visionary leader of India, Mahatma Gandhi, said, "It is health that is real wealth, and not pieces of gold and silver." Listen to the Healthy Grocer radio show on your favorite podcast platform. We know that health is our greatest wealth, and we will be discussing all aspects of natural healing. Explore everything from supplements, superfoods, and healthy lifestyle choices to help conquer stress and boost productivity. Top industry experts and natural health professionals join us for a deep dive into our healing journey. You can find the Healthy Grocer radio show on demand every day, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And remember, health is your greatest wealth.